I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and if you're like me, you're a tech geek. You're the geekiest of the geek, and you enjoy those little things that make devices different. And I'm not just talking about different devices within themselves, I'm talking about the same device on multiple carriers. In my hands right now, the International Galaxy S4, the AT&T Galaxy S4, and the Sprint Galaxy S4. Let's go take a look and see what's different about these devices, what's similar, and which one is the best all around. 3 Samsung Galaxy S4 units, one an AT&T version, one an international version, and one is a Sprint version. And we're just going to have a casual conversation and talk about some of the differences between the US devices and the international, and then within the US versions themselves, some differences between the AT&T and the Sprint versions. Coming very soon to T-Mobile, coming in May on Verizon Wireless, the Galaxy S4 is already a very popular smartphone, and it goes head-to-head against the HTC One as the Android crown, or to give the Android crown to one of them at least. It's going to be an industry heavyweight device when it launches on all 4 carriers, and already is in a lot of ways because it's replacing the Samsung Galaxy S3. So this is the AT&T version, and first and foremost I'll bring up this so you can take a closer look, and we'll wait for it to focus in. You can take a closer look at the notifications area. You see the AT&T network identifier in the left-hand corner, and much like the Galaxy S3, my understanding is it kind of moves in and out depending on what you're doing. If you have notifications, apparently it goes away. If you don't, sometimes it stays, sometimes it still goes away. You get the 4G LTE logo up here, and in typical Samsung style and AT&T style, you got 5 bars of service. So 4G LTE logo, very decidedly AT&T, and then 5 total bars of service on the AT&T version. Now juxtapose that with the international version, which is always and still does with the Galaxy S4, had 4. And forgive the focus issues here. Let's get this focused in, and you can see the H or H plus for HSPA plus when it's available. This is the international version. Does not have LTE capabilities in the United States, but it got 4 bars of service right there. So a little bit of a different look and feel on the signal strength indicator bar between those two. Then you got the Sprint version. It has a total of 6 bars of service when it's at maximum service, and then the 4G indicator is a little bit different here as well, and you can see 4G, and you can see a total of 6 bars of service right there also. All of them have the bloop bloop noise, which is what I call this. I don't know if you can hear that with the microphone on, but the bloop bloop noise is very popular with Samsung devices, and it continues on both of these. Now, a couple of areas where you'll really see the differences between the US and the international version in the settings themselves. You've still got the tabs on each one between connections, my device, accounts, and more, but you'll see a difference between the way that the toggles look. On the international version, it is a circle, and when it's enabled, it's a line over here, whereas it's off and on both the US versions. Power saving mode here, this is something unique to the international version as well. Safety assistance, and when an emergency situation is declared, you press and hold the up and down volume buttons. When it's declared, you can send an emergency message to your contacts. This was on the international version. It did not make it to either one of these US versions, so we'll see if it comes perhaps to the T-Mobile or Verizon version. My guess is it will not. Usually international features like that don't make it over. And then of course blocking mode historically has not been on Verizon devices either. Let me jump back in here so you can see again some of the differences. And then of course all the stuff here kind of the same. My device, and just to show you the difference, accessories, and then accessibility, but no safety assistance area on the US versions. Let's take a look at quadrant standard and speed tests on both of these devices. We'll run them side by side. Hope you're as ready for this as I am, and before we do that, we'll talk about some of the applications on each one of these devices. You see a lot of AT&T stuff over here. AT&T Family Map, AT&T Locker, Navigator, Smart Wi-Fi. Then over here you've got Mobile Hotspot, AT&T Messages. What else? Let's go down through here. All the Samsung stuff. Visual voicemail, which I installed, YP Mobile, which comes out of the box. Nothing really on the international version, save for some games. Brain Challenge comes out of the box. Littlest Pet Shop, Little Big City. This is the Latin America version of the Samsung Galaxy S4. And then that is it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Wonder Zoo and Uno also come out of the box. And over here, some Sprint stuff as well. Sprint Zone, Sprint Worldwide, Sprint TV and Movies, and Sprint Music Plus. So they all have some level of either carrier or manufacturer installed bloatware on both of these devices. Otherwise, widgets look very similar, and overall design is identical. On the back, I should point this out really quickly, no network identifier on the Sprint version. It just says Samsung and Galaxy S4, whereas over here in typical carrier feel, you get the AT&T Globe. Now this is going to be, my understanding, is pretty similar across the board with Verizon and with T-Mobile as well. It's just a logo right here, and that is it. Nothing on the front with any of these devices with any of the carriers, but Sprint took it a step further and didn't put their logo on the back. Let's take a look at quadrant standard on both of these devices. Quadrant loading up right now. Boom, 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 boom. And let's do quadrant standard over here. Where is my quadrant standard? There it is. And we'll run the benchmarks on all of these devices and take a look. So also you're seeing the difference between the white frost and the black mist as well, and some of the different color themes. They both have textures on the colors, so it kind of prohibits the scratches or keeps the scratches at bay, if you will, versus a solid color where you get that scratch, you get that scuff, and you see it almost immediately. That is something I like about both of these devices. I will say I've had both of these in the office for a while, actually these two. This one just came in because I bought it at the AT&T store for the site/company. Had both of these for a while. And I will say the black one is much more of a fingerprint magnet than the white version. So keep that in mind. If that's something that bothers you, buy the white version, don't buy the black version. But take a look at both in store and see which one you prefer more. So here we go, benchmark results, yes, yes, yes. AT&T, 12,235. 12,679, 12,686. A Sprint version first, international version second, AT&T version in third place. Now let's take a look at the LTE scores versus HSPA+. Obviously the international version is at a loss here because it doesn't have HSPA+ capabilities. So keep that in mind. Let me look for speed test on here. Doot. There we go there. And let's get speed test loaded up. Actually, I need to go ahead and install it on the AT&T version. Alrighty, installed and ready to go, and they are all on the Skybeam server that's based in Dallas. We'll begin the test right now and take a look between all three of these. They're all in megabits per second as well, as opposed to kilobits per second. So AT&T, very dominant in the Dallas area. Obviously, this is one of what I would call AT&T's two home markets, if you will, home being Dallas and Atlanta. And then you've got speeds of 16.95 megabits per second on the download. Poor speeds over here with Sprint, but if you've watched my videos, I've told you my office space, for whatever reason, is not a great spot anymore for Sprint's 4G LTE. I don't know if it's a cell site issue. It was great when LTE first rolled out. It's been great for a couple of months, but since about March, I'd say February or March, it's been kind of rough. So here we go. 2.65 megabits per second on LTE on Sprint. And over here, 6.31 megabits per second on HSPA Plus on AT&T, 16.95 megabits per second on LTE on AT&T. So you can say LTE/AT&T HSPA Plus dominates this all around in the office test. So again, grain of salt, indicative day-to-day performance, not always. You may live in a great Sprint spot, you may live in a great AT&T spot for HSPA Plus, but not LTE. Just something to form your benchmarks off of as you're looking at this device as a prospective unit for you. As you can see, the upload hasn't even completed over here just yet. Otherwise, some other software differences that have come to mind in my time with working with both of these devices, or all three of these devices rather. The phone area. Take a look at the contact dialer areas and how different they are. This is historical Galaxy, the dark blue color theme with the dark background. We saw this in the Galaxy Note 2, the Galaxy S3, the Galaxy S2 before that. All of those, they've switched to this lighter color theme, which made it over to the US version but did not make it to the international version, at least the international Latin America version. So you can see more of an older theme here. This is the new theme. This is how it looks. Everything is bright as opposed to a darker color theme. And you see that in messages as well. Messaging over here, very light. Messaging over here, dark. And I would pull up my messages, but this is my personal phone right now, and all my text messages are loaded up over there, so just take my word for it. That's it for this version of What's the Differences between the Galaxy S4 variants. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com. Let me know if you see something that I missed on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron, on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hi Aaron Baker. Regardless of which Galaxy S4 you get, you're going to get a device with a great experience. Stay tuned because I'm going to do a very similar video with the HTC One. I have the international, the AT&T, and the Sprint versions of it as well, so be on the lookout for that in the coming days. We'll compare the differences between HTC's flagship device. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.